Okay, thanks for joining this webinar about documentation toolkits for various cybersecurity frameworks, NIS2, DORA, ISO 27001. And yeah, let's just wait a minute for everyone to join. And yeah, while we are waiting, can you just let me know where did you join the webinar from? Just if you can say the city and the country. So I'm calling in from Zagreb, Croatia, and how about you? If you can let me know, I would be glad to know this. You can send this either through a chat window or through this question pane in Zoom. Okay, so while we are waiting for your responses, just a couple of notes here. So first of all, we are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to watch this webinar from the same page where you actually joined the webinar. So if you join the webinar through Zoom, then you will actually be able to see the webinar in the same page where you registered for the webinar. And if you join the webinar through LinkedIn or Zoom, LinkedIn or YouTube, then you will be able to actually see this recording in the same page where also this live streaming is being displayed. Second, you'll be able to download this presentation deck, and at the end of the webinar, I'll actually tell you where you can find the link to download this PDF presentation deck, and then you'll be able to download this. Okay, I see Tom from Stuttgart in Germany. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. Okay. Yeah, so I think basically lots of people have joined already. So yeah, let's start the webinar. By the way, I see that a comment about the chat window. So if you want to send any question or any message towards me, then please use a Q&A session, a Q&A window in Zoom. So basically, if you're using Zoom, then this is the best way to send any messages. Okay, so let me start the webinar. So welcome to this webinar, how to use the documentation toolkit for NIS2, DORA, and ISO 27001 compliance. My name is Dejan Kosutic, and I'm the main ISO 27001, NIS2, and DORA expert at Advisera. And Advisera is a company that makes compliance easy to understand and simple to use. And this webinar is a webinar today streamed through Zoom, but also through YouTube and LinkedIn. And it will last approximately 50, maybe 55 minutes. And I'll try to make it as interactive as possible so that you can, ask any questions that you're interested in. And by all means, please do ask as many questions as you want. And this will make the webinar more interesting. And at the end of the webinar, you'll see that we have this Q&A session, but you do not have to wait for this Q&A session. You can actually ask your questions during my presentation, and I'll try to answer your questions as I go through the presentation. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So basically, why is this topic of documentation important? Well, this is because actually documentation is one of the biggest challenges for many actually cybersecurity professionals. And very often when I see some polls or these kind of things, very often documentation is, if not in the first place, but usually in the second or third place when it comes to, let's say, level of difficulty and the problems that these companies or these professionals have. So basically, the point of this webinar today will be actually to show you how to speed up the writing of this documentation. And I'll show you some examples for NIS2, which is European Cybersecurity Directive for cybersecurity, DORA, which is a European cybersecurity regulation for cybersecurity as well, but for financial institutions, and 27001, which is of course international cybersecurity standards. And basically, this webinar today is made for any professional who is in charge of compliance projects, so either for consultants or for project managers, or simply for people who are doing the implementation for the first time and they just want to learn how to handle documentation during these kind of projects. Okay, so one of my main points today is that toolkits, I mean documentation toolkits should not be only about documentation, right? It shouldn't be only about policies and procedures, these kind of things. It should also be about, let's say, giving you the know-how on how to actually approach the project, how to approach the implementation. So I would say that you should always try to get out of this kind of a tool or a toolkit more than just the documents and actually get this know-how. Of course, speed up your project and get expert support as well if this is available. And I'll show you all of these things and how they work with Advisera's toolkits during this presentation today. Good, so the agenda for today, and by the way, you can let me know through this chat window in LinkedIn or YouTube, or through this Q&A pane in Zoom, if you want me to actually spend more time on some of these topics. So I'll go through these topics in agenda, but again, if you want me to focus more on any of these things, just you know, send me a note through this chat or Q&A pane, and then I'll know what I have to go into more depth. Aha, I see from Edward, ISO 27001. Okay, of course, I'll go. Actually, I'll show you in the next slide a little bit more about 27001, and I'll give you some links on where you can learn really in detail about the standard. All right. Good. So basically, the first agenda will be first item will be who needs to comply with what. So I'll show you basically which type of companies need to comply with which of these three frameworks, and then I'll go through requirements of these three frameworks. So I'll show you the requirements from 27001, from DORA, from NIS2, just for you to kind of get a feeling for this. Then I'll explain what are the general approaches, three potential approaches for compliance projects, and I'll also show you these Advisera's toolkits for all these standards, and I'll show you actually in a couple of languages because it's not only in English, we have several other languages. I'll show you pricing and options for these toolkits, and I'll also go through these slides about main challenges in the implementation. Good. Yeah, so let's start with this basically a slide on who actually needs to comply with what. So it's a little bit of a complicated or complex table, but let me actually walk you through this. So as you can see here in the first column, you have basically indication of which companies need to comply with this NIS2 directive. So just to kind of clarify, NIS2 directive is basically a directive which is intended for critical infrastructure companies in European Union. There are something like 18 sectors mentioned there, so basically they actually have to be compliant with NIS2, but basically they have to be compliant with also with these local NIS2 laws. Why? NIS2 directive is a top level, I would say, a baseline, and then each European country publishes their own laws and regulations based on NIS2 for these critical infrastructure companies. Anyway, critical infrastructure companies obviously in Europe have to comply with the NIS2, but also these critical digital infrastructure companies, because they're actually, out of these 18, there are two sectors which are basically for digital infrastructure companies, digital service providers, and they also have to be compliant with NIS2 and local NIS2 laws in a particular country where they operate. Okay, the second column is about this CIR. CIR stands for Commission Implementing Regulation, and it's called 2024-2690. And basically it's a kind of an appendix to NIS2, and this one actually applies directly to companies. So unlike NIS2, which is a directive and it doesn't really apply directly to companies, this CIR does apply directly to companies, but not all critical infrastructure companies, only to those two sectors that I mentioned earlier. So digital infrastructure infrastructure and a digital service provider. So basically these two sectors that are actually under the scope of NIS2, these companies have to be compliant with this CIR. in a couple of slides, I'll actually show you how this CIR looks like. I'll also show you NIS2, so you'll get a feeling on basically how this looks like. But what is important is that only these critical digital infrastructure companies, they have to be compliant with this CIR. Okay, now and then let's move on to the third column, which speaks about DORA. DORA is, as I mentioned, financial is applicable for financial entities. So banks, insurance companies, brokerage houses, investment banks, these kind of companies or institutions. Again, only for European Union. And you have this DORA, which is the main regulation, but also these RTSs. These are the regulatory technical standards, and basically these are I would say describe in more detail whatever DORA has prescribed. So I'll actually show you a couple of sources where you can read about all of these, but just for now that you understand that this is applicable only to financial entities. And then, so these first three columns are for specific, I would say, industries. So the first one is for these 18 sectors, right? The second one is for these two sectors, meaning for these digital infrastructure companies. The third one is only for financial entities. Now the question is what happens with all the other companies. And basically these other companies, of course, have to comply with various security clauses in agreements, right? So if you're a supplier to a financial entity, then this financial entity has written various security clauses in the agreements, and then of course you have to comply. So this is something that that is, I would say, relevant to you, these security clauses. But also the suppliers to critical infrastructure companies. If you are a supplier to any of these critical infrastructure companies that are in the NIS2 scope, then you have to comply with these security clauses in agreements. Now, what is my point here? If you are a supplier to a company that is within within DORA scope or within NIS2 scope, this does not mean that a company has to be compliant with DORA or NIS2. No. So if you are, let's say, I don't know, a software developer company, and you are developing software for a bank, this does not mean that you have to comply with DORA. No, there is no such requirement. If you are, I don't know, software developer, if you're developing software for a company that is in the NIS2 scope, again, you do not have to comply with NIS2. What you have to comply with are, again, security clauses in the agreements that you've signed with those buyers. And then you have this column, last column, which companies need to comply with security standards. Now, if you are a supplier to financial entities, then you have to comply with not any, but some security standards. Typically, this will be ISO 27001. DORA does not say which security standard you have to comply with, but it does say that suppliers to financial entities must actually comply with security standards. And ISO 27001 is the most logical choice because it's something that is most common. This is the most common cybersecurity standard. The same thing with critical infrastructure companies. If you are a supplier to them, again, you do not have to comply with NIS2, but you do have to comply with a security standard. Again, 27001 is the most obvious choice. And then you have the last row here, other companies. Of course, they have to comply with security clauses in agreements, even if they're not supplying critical infrastructure companies, if they're not supplying financial entities. They probably do have some customers out of these, beyond these industries. And if there are some clauses, then basically they have to, security clauses, they have to comply with the security clauses. Now, those companies can actually comply also with ISO 27001 if they want to. There is no obligation there, but if you are simply in a market and you see that your customers, I would say, would view your company preferably if you do have the standard, then of course you can go for ISO 27001. Okay, good. We'll share now with you a couple of links. The first one is who must comply with the DORA regulation. This is an article on Advisera website. And by the way, if you join the webinar through Zoom or through YouTube, you'll be able to click this link that you see in the chat window now. It will open in your browser. If you joined through LinkedIn, then because of some limitations in LinkedIn, you can't really click this link, but the workaround for this is that you simply copy the URL from the chat and paste it into your browser, and the link will open. Okay, the second link that we'll send you is this article, which IT companies need to comply with DORA and how. This is also an article which speaks about basically these suppliers and how they're related to DORA. And the third link will be which companies must comply with NIS2. There you will see a list of all these 18 sectors, and you will also see these 2 sectors within these 18 that are related to digital infrastructure companies. Okay, I see a question from Jose. Is it required also for third-party service provider or the principal company is ISO 27001 required? Okay, let me see if I understand the question. Is it required also for third-party service provider or the principal company as ISO 20? So I'm not sure if I understand the question, but if a company is ISO 27001 certified, and if they have a supplier or a service provider, this service provider does not need to be ISO 27001 certified as well. So it's not something that would be mandatory. Okay, I see now from Jose that I already provided the answer probably before. Okay, good. Now let's there is a question from Alessio. Is ISO 27001 is just a standard? There is no obligation to be certified for companies regardless the sector. You are right. In most cases there is not, and even if this in this last column that I've displayed here, you see this comply with security standards, right? So neither DORA nor NIS2, they don't mention ISO 27001. So you can go for, I don't know, SOC 2, for example, or you can go for some other cybersecurity standard like NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Now, the thing is, ISO 27001 is, well, the most popular, especially in Europe. In Europe, you don't see very often this NIST or SOC 2. So basically, this is why I mentioned and why do I put an emphasis here. Now, I didn't actually want to go into this discussion, but some regulations in some countries do actually specify ISO 27001. For example, in my home country in Croatia, for let's say telecom sector, you must have ISO 27001. Not because of NIS2. This is something that was published long before NIS2. So ISO 27001 does, appear in some local legislation. Speaking of NIS2, though, Belgium actually, when it transposed NIS2 into their local legislation, they basically said that companies that want to comply with NIS2 have 2 options. One is that they go with this cyber fundamentals, which is, you could consider it as a local cybersecurity standard. The second option is ISO 27001. So to complicate this story further, even if you're a critical infrastructure company in Belgium, actually you can go for ISO 27001 as a way to comply directly with local NIS2 law. Another question from Alessio. If a company is ISO 27001 certified, can it be said that there is compliance with NIS2? No. Okay, Belgium could be an exception there, but none of the other countries in Europe that transposed NIS2 so far, they didn't say that ISO 27001 could be acceptable as a way to comply. So far, only one country in Europe, whereas all the other countries that published their local laws and regulations based on NIS2, they didn't allow 27001 to be, let's say, the way to comply. That being said, I think 27001 is a very good basis for NIS2 because later on when I will show you these toolkits, basically these toolkits for NIS2 are based on ISO 27001, and I would say if you do have ISO 27001, you are, let's say, somewhere somewhere around 70% compliant already with most of these laws and regulations across Europe for NIS2. But okay, let me show you this when I come to the point of showing the toolkits. Okay, very well. Now let's move on to the next slide. So what are the key requirements for 27001? If you're not familiar, there are these clauses 4 to 10 which are mandatory, and then there are 93 controls from Annex A which are optional. So let me just share the screen very briefly to show you how this looks like if you're not familiar. So here is this big guide to ISO 27001 clauses. This is an article you can find on Advisera website. And here you can actually find these clauses for 27001. So clause 0.4, context of the organization, and then understanding the context, blah, blah, blah. Let's say here is the clause 4.3 about determining the scope, right? If I open this in a new tab, you will see a description of this requirements, what kind of documents you typically need, and some suggested implementation steps, and some suggested audit evidence. So we'll send you now this link to this article so that you can open it yourself, and you can, you know, browse by yourself and learn about these requirements. Anyway, just to show you how this looks like all the way to clause 10, improvements, and then you have 93 controls, right? So these 93 controls are listed here. As you can see, they start with control 5.1. You have section 6 people controls, section 7 physical controls, and then section 8 technological controls. So I don't know, you can see, you know, control 8.15 about logging. When you open it, again, you have the description, documentation, implementation, and audit evidence. So you will see all of these things here. Okay, so you have the link. You feel free to open it and go through this. Tom says, will you mention 27001 and 2? I will not go in this webinar today through all of the standards. I simply don't have enough time for this. But yes, 27002 is a very useful standard when it comes to implementation of control. So if you want to learn about these control implementation, you can use 27002. Okay, very well. Now let's go to to NIS2. So let me switch again to the presentation. Basically, NIS2, since this is only a directive, it's I would say very basic in requirements for cybersecurity. So I'll show you this in a second. But you have this CIR 2024-2690 that I already mentioned. It's much more detailed. So let me go back to my screen and show you how this looks like. So here is the full text of NIS2. And you will see also now the link in your chat window. You can open this full text as well. Now, what is interesting here is that basically articles 20, what is interesting is article 20 about governance. As you can see, it's rather short. It doesn't say much. It says that member states shall ensure that members of the management bodies are required to follow training and shall encourage to offer similar training to their employees. So not much here. When we click next article 21, it's about cybersecurity risk management measures. And basically it says here that you need all kinds of policies, but it doesn't say anything much more in detail. So it's rather generic. However, this CIR, it's much more detailed. So you can see also this on the screen now, and then you will see now also the link to this CIR. I won't actually go in this main part of the standard. It describes what are the significant incidents. Much more interesting is this technical and annex, which describes these security clauses, security measures. And here you can actually see in the annex, policy on the security on network information systems. This is the top level policy according to CIR. And as you can see, it's much more detailed. It describes in much more detail what you need to have in this top level policy. Also, how you describe the roles and responsibilities and authorities. How this risk management policy needs to look like. For me, basically, this is a risk management methodology, but okay, it's a matter of terminology. So again, very detailed here. Monitoring, independent review. So again, this would be, let's say, internal audit. Incident handling, what you need to have in incident handling policy, monitoring and logging. So as you can see, CIR is much more detailed, and this is something to keep in mind. Again, this CIR is only applicable to digital critical infrastructure companies. Okay, going back to my presentation. Yeah, okay, we'll also send you this link. What I didn't mention is that when it comes to transposition of particular countries, again, each European country has their own laws and regulations, and today really is not a webinar for me to go into this, we will send you now this link to one page on Advisera website, where you will see actually articles for particular countries, where you will actually be able to learn about particular countries. So this page is called NIS2 Where to Start. Okay, good. So let's move on to the next slide. This is about DORA requirements. Again, DORA is for financial entities. I will show you very briefly how this looks like, because we are kind of running out of time. And here this is the full text of DORA. And what is important is that there are 4 major chapters in DORA. There is this chapter about ICT risk management, then about incident management, classification, reporting, digital operational resilience testing, and managing ICT third-party risk. So these are the 4 most important ones. So if I go for any of these, let's say, I don't know, governance and organization, this is a part of this ICT risk management. You will see that it has very detailed requirements here. So again, we've sent you the link now to this DORA regulation, and if you want to learn more, you can go also and read about it. Okay, we'll also share now links to these free courses. So first of all, there is this ISO 27001 Foundations course, if you want to learn about the basics of 27001. And this is a free course. You can go through it without any payments. We charge only for the exam, if you want to go for the exam. Also, we'll send you the link to DORA Foundations course. Again, if you want to learn about DORA, this is also a way to do it. We still don't have the course for NIS2, and the reason is that most of these local laws and regulations for NIS2 are still not published. So we'll probably go with this kind of a course once in a couple of months many of these local laws and regulations are published. Then we will create this NIS2 course. Good. Now let me now move on to just to see if we've sent. There is also a link that we will send you now for what are these commission delegated regulations for DORA. So if you're interested in DORA, then these commission delegated regulations are very important, because they specify the details. So we'll see also some more information there. Okay, good. Now let's move on to the let's say what kind of approach you can have with compliance with any of these frameworks. So first of all, the approach is that you can do it on your own. So if you already have, let's say that you're, I don't know, a financial entity, that you already have a CISO, that you already have a security office, and that basically you already have, I would say, the knowledge for complying with these kind of frameworks, then you don't really need anything extra. Then you can simply do it with resources that you already have. On the other hand, if you have nothing, if you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have the experience, then you can hire a consultant. And there is a whole consulting industry out there that deals with these kind of projects, and typically you would even find consultants that are specialized in particular industries. So if you are, I don't know, high-tech industry, producing, I don't know, computer chips, there's probably a consultant that specializes in these kind of industries, and that can help you comply with, let's say, ISO 27001. And the third approach is basically a combination of your own employees and external help. And basically this is what we specialize in Advisera, right? We actually create these online tools that help you learn and where we give you the know-how, and then you can actually do it with your own employees. But we are actually externally helping you by providing you this know-how, documentation, and these kind of things. So basically, you know, when you want to start your implementation, you have to choose amongst these three options. I'm not saying that any of these options is the best. I'm just saying that there are these three options, and basically based on the situation where you are, you have to choose. So again, if you already have the know-how, I mean, if you have the knowledge, if you have the resources, then the first option is the best. The second option, consultants, are the best if you don't have enough time and if you don't have the resources, right? Then if you have to do it quickly, then a consultant is probably the best solution. The third option, where your employees, where we actually teach you how to do it with your own employees, this is basically the best option if you have a little bit more time and if your budget is not as high, because consultants tend to be expensive, especially the good ones, they tend to be expensive. Okay, good. Now, let me now go for these Advisera documentation toolkits. So basically, what do these toolkits provide you? And of course, I'll show you how they look like, but just let me tell you what they help you with. They help you with the sequence of implementation. They help you with speeding up, you know, the writing of these documents. And of course, you can create these editable documents, and you can use them for your internal purposes. So let me now show you how this looks like in practice. So basically, anyone who purchases our toolkit, they get the access to this kind of an application. And here, actually, they can you know, work and create these documents and download them. So here I'm showing you this ISO 27001 documentation toolkit, and what you can see here are the folders. As you can see, these folders go from 1 to 13, and basically these are the steps in your implementation. So you start with document management, then go on with the preparation for the project, identification of requirements, and so on and so forth. So basically, the last steps in the project would be internal audit, management review, corrective actions. Okay, and when you open any of these folders, you will actually see documents within them and the indication whether it is a mandatory document and also what are the relevant clauses here. Okay, let me go with some folder where there are more documents. So let's go for this Annex A here. As you can see, there are 24 documents. So for example, this IT security policy, it covers, you know, several controls from the Annex A, as you can see, all of them. Okay, or clear desk and clear screen policy, this is 7.7 and 8.1 from the controls. Okay, so as you can see there, you know, there are many of these documents. Now, how does this actually help you speed up writing of documents? So let me pick one document, let's say supplier security policy. I simply click on it. And then you basically enter this wizard, which helps you fill out, not only fill out, but adapt the document for the specific circumstances in your company. So basically it's like this. So it asks you, okay, what is the name of the person to approve this document? So let me just scroll down. Okay, so you can you know, use some name here. What is the confidentiality level? Let's say that I want confidential, and then I click next. Who is in charge of deciding if additional risk assessment is needed for suppliers? Let's say purchasing manager. And then what is the job title of person in charge of training and awareness activities in your company? Let's say, okay, CISO. Who is in charge of receiving information about security incidents? Let's say security. By the way, you have a suggestion here who this might be. Let's say security department. Okay, next step, who is the job title to approve changes or termination of contracts? Okay, CTO, and so on. So basically, as you can see, this system already suggests you all these entries. And this is because I already used this wizard for some other purposes, and this is actually how it remembered what are the job titles and what are the specific roles and responsibilities. And this is actually how this system learns about your company and then suggests you the best solutions. Anyway, go next, and then you simply click download, and then this document is already downloaded on your local disk. So basically, when this wizard is finished, you simply get the document on your disk and you simply open it, and I'll show you how this looks like. Okay, so you can see the document on the screen. It already inserted this logo inside because I already uploaded the logo previously. It inserts the company name, okay, and it inserts specific information from this wizard. So if you remember, John Doe was the approver. I inserted this confidential as the level of confidentiality. You also see in the header here, test company confidential. And you of course have the full text here with these things inserted from the wizard. So for example, yeah, if you remember, I entered purchasing manager as the person who decides whether it's needed to additionally assess risk. Since this is a Word document, you can write whatever you want here. So it's fully editable. As you can see, you can enter whatever you want. You can delete anything you want from the document, and you can also see various comments here which actually suggest you what to fill out here in this template. So for example, you have this comment: who is in charge of deciding if additional risk assessment is needed for suppliers? This is the comment here for this particular entry. Of course you can delete it, and yeah, for example, you can see delete this whole section if control 8.6.1 was found inapplicable in statement of applicability. So again, you can very easily adapt these documents to whatever you need, and it's very easy to follow them and do whatever you need to do. Okay, good. So I have a question from Edward. If we purchase Conformio, do we need, however, this toolkit, or it's included in Conformio tool? So this actually wizard is already included in Conformio. So you can actually think about toolkits as, let's say, document tool set with already with this wizard, whereas Conformio is everything that you see here in the toolkit plus the risk register plus let's say corrective actions plus the automation which guides you plus the automation for a statement of applicability. So toolkits are let's say a simpler tool focused on documentation. Conformio has everything the toolkit has, plus it actually gives you much more automation in terms of risk register and so on. So today I'm focusing only on toolkits, not on Conformio, but so this is why I'm showing you the toolkit only. Okay, another question from Alessio: do people need to have heavy ICT skills to be auditors under 27001? Okay, let me actually answer this question later on. It's not directly related here to these templates. Okay, going back to the toolkit itself. So let's go back to this page here. There are toolkits for 27001 in other languages. So let me show you in, for example, German. Yeah, this is the one in German. So again, in German, everything is the same, but of course in different language, right? So you have the whole interface in German, you have all these documents in German, but the references, everything else is the same. So if I open again the same document, so I think this was, I'm not speaking German, but I'm not sure if I'm going to guess what is the one for suppliers. Anyway, let me try this one. Anyway, so you see basically the same thing, but again in German. Okay, now the same thing actually is there for NIS2, right? So let me switch to NIS2 Documentation Toolkit in English. Now here you will see similar folders, but more of them. So if you remember in 27001 there were something like 13 or 14. Here there are more folders. Why? Because NIS2 is more complex and we needed to create more documents to include here. So for example, for, as you can see here, cybersecurity policies and procedures, there are 25, but then there are also business continuity and crisis management documents. This folder does not exist in 27001. So when I open it, you will see several documents here, starting with a business impact analysis methodology. And here you also see the references to NIS2, but also to this CIR, because obviously CIR was very important when we created all of these documents. And of course there are 27001 controls, and in this case there is also 22301 which was used when creating this this particular document. When it comes to NIS2, there is also for each country that publish their own NIS2 laws, we have a special version of this particular toolkit in that language that is also further compliant with those local laws and regulations. So for example, let me find, I'm looking for Italian. Yeah. So again, everything is here in Italian, but what is important is that you will see actually references to all the, so this is NIS2, but this here is actually, these are local NIS2 laws in Italy, which are relevant for specifically for companies in Italy. So what we did, we took this NIS2 documentation toolkit, adapted it to Italian laws and regulations, and then translated it into Italian. And this is what you see here. And of course, we have the same thing, you know, for other countries. So let me see. Yeah, this is for NIS2 in Belgium, in French, but also in Dutch, and so on. And finally, what I wanted to show you was DORA toolkit. Again, the same principles. So basically, you have these folders, and each folder has several documents. So let me now open this Digital Operational Resilience Strategy, 4 documents. So the strategy document, again, several DORA articles, but also these CDR, so Commission Delegated Regulations, which specify resilience strategy, and also some 27001 articles, like clauses, and 22301. Okay, here you also have these recovery time objectives, examples of disruptive scenarios, activity recovery strategy, and so on. Currently, DORA toolkit is only in English, so if we see a need, we will also translate it into some other languages. Okay, basically, yeah, this is what I wanted to show you regarding these toolkits. Yeah, if you have any questions around these toolkits, let me know, and I'll open the screen. I'll open the document and show you how it looks like. Good. Yeah, let me go back to my presentation. Okay, so regarding the pricing, basically these products, I mean, these toolkits are one-time payments, so there is no recurring payment, only one-time payments. For 27001 toolkit, this is $900 US. For NIS2 toolkit, it's 2,000 euros, and this includes the English version, but also the localized version translated into your language. So if you're purchasing, I don't know, Belgium toolkit that is in French, you will get English version and the French version that is adapted for Belgium. DORA toolkit is 2,500 euros. It's the most expensive because it does have the most documents, is the most detailed, because you know this DORA regulation and related these CDRs, I mean the regulatory technical standards, they're very detailed, and we had to adapt these documents pretty heavily. And with all of these toolkits, basically the prices include free updates within 24 months. So if we change anything, if we adapt, if we add anything into these toolkits, you will actually get all the updates for free within 24 months. You have one-on-one consultations with an expert. So this is basically where we help you with this expert advice. So if you get stuck, if you don't know how to resolve a problem, let's say, I don't know, you're not sure what is your scope of ISO 27001, then you can schedule a call with an expert, and he or she will help you out with these things. Also, you have the review of your documents. So depending on the plan, you have one or several documents that we can review. You have this support via email, and of course you can use this application for as a document wizard. By the way, what I forgot to mention, if you don't like this wizard, you can simply go back down to the bottom of the screen, and you can actually download all the templates as a zip file. So if you don't want to use this wizard, simply download all the documents at once, and then you will be able to use them as they are. Of course, you can adapt them further, but then you will not have this automation of filling out these things through a wizard. So if you use the wizard, you go one by one and you use this, I would say, intelligent system which suggests you what to enter, or you download them all at once and then adapt them fully manually. Okay, basically this is it regarding the documents. We've sent you also these links to these pages where you can see more details about these toolkits. And what's good actually is that you can sign up for a free demo. So let me also show you how this works. So yeah, let me go here. Okay, so if you open this link, you will see something like this. So let me just find the toolkit. Okay, you will see something like this. Now, if you want to see how this works without payment, you go simply for this free trial. Okay, you click this free trial button. You have to provide your email address, and then you will enter into this free demo mode of Documentation Toolkit, and you will see the same interface as I've shown you on the screen, and you will be able to actually see all of these documents, but only the free demo version of these documents. So not a full document, but a free demo if you are doing only this free trial. Yeah, here you will also be able to see, you know, all the documents that are part of this toolkit. So if I want to see how this scope document looks like, I don't have to register. I can simply see it on the screen directly here. Okay, good. Now let me go back to my screen. Okay, I think we've sent you these links to these toolkits, so feel free to open them. And by the way, just to show you also, if you're interested in NIS2 toolkits, just to show you where to find them. So here, when I go for this documentation toolkits, you can actually change the language here, right? So you can see all the versions, local versions here. So you have Dutch, French, this is I think Lithuanian, Italian, Romanian, Danish, Hungarian, this is Greek, and Slovenian. So we have all these languages for now, and of course we are adding all the other languages as these countries are publishing their own laws and regulations. Good. Now, yeah, let me go now with these biggest challenges. So basically, these are the questions I received before the webinar, and I tried to kind of list here the most interesting ones. And yeah, thank you for sending these emails. So one challenge was risk management, because it is difficult to quantify. So yes, there are different approaches to risk management, and ISO 27001 is, I would say, doesn't really provide too much details on how risk management needs to look like. NIS2, especially CIR, this 2690 and DORA are a little bit more precise on how you do have to do this risk management. They prescribe actually this asset-based approach. But when it comes to basically quantifying, all of these frameworks actually prescribe that you need to have the level of impact and level of likelihood. Okay. Now, in my view, if this is a small company, it's enough to have actually a very simple scale for assessing impact and likelihood, like low, medium, and high, right? And this is basically, I would say, enough if a smaller company wants to get compliant with ISO 27001. And then when you present it to the employees within this company, it's easier for them to understand and to select between low, medium, and high. Now, if you're a financial entity, if you go for DORA, then probably low, medium, high is not enough. You should use a scale maybe from 1 to 5. And then let's say 1 is very low, 2 is low, 3 is medium, 4 is high, and then 5 is very high. It's a little bit, let's say, more difficult to explain to employees, but still, it's doable. And you know, the better that you explain what these scales mean, the easier the whole risk assessment will be done. So what is recommended is that you do some kind of a workshop where you explain these things to the people in charge, and where you go through several examples together, and then once they get it, then they can start doing this on their own. Okay, good. Now, the next question was, or the next challenge was, define a list of ISMS documents that will map the minimum requirements. So if you're using a tool like this, like a toolkit, it already gives you, all the templates. And besides this, on Advisera website, you can actually find a list of mandatory documents that you should be using. So I'll ask my colleague to send you links to these articles about mandatory documents for 27001, for NIS2, and for DORA. So you will see these links shortly in the chat window. Okay, next challenge is aligning NIS2, DORA, and ISO 27001 into one governance. So I would say that you are not going to have a situation where you will have both DORA and NIS2. So it's because either you're a financial entity or you're a critical infrastructure company, but I didn't see so far examples of companies that they have to comply with both NIS2 and DORA. So it's usually not the case. But yes, you might have the case where you have to comply with NIS2 and 27001. But again, it's not going to be very often. Again, the only exception I would say is maybe Belgium, but in most cases this will not be a case either. Anyway, if you do have to comply with 2 or more frameworks at the same time, then the basically solution for having one governance system for all of these is that you actually write policies and procedures in such a way that cover all of these 3 requirements. So you're not going to have 3 separate backup policies, one for 27001, the other one for DORA, and the third one for NIS2. No, you're having one backup policy, and this one backup policy, you have to make sure that you are basically, that it is actually covering all the requirements from any relevant standards. So as easy as this. I wouldn't say that nothing more is needed other than this, I would say, very basic approach to integrating various requirements. Okay, another challenge was choosing which controls to implement from ISO 27000 Annex A. Well, the standard is clear here. You have to perform a risk assessment. You also have to analyze the requirements from interested parties. And based on these 2 sources, you actually decide which controls are applicable. And, from my experience, working with hundreds, if not thousands of companies, I've never seen a company actually go below 80 controls, so 80. And if this is a company of, let's say, mid-size or a larger company, typically they go for all 93 controls, because it's most of these controls are so logical that it's hard to exclude them. Again, I've never seen a company exclude, control for backup or for encryption or for access control, this kind of, so it's so logical that that you use this kind of controls. It's very hard to exclude them. Where I do see exclusions are, let's say, for software development controls. If you're not developing software within your company, then you might exclude some software development controls. Also, if a company is very small and if everyone is working remotely, then these companies are typically excluding physical security controls. So these are, let's say, 2 most common scenarios where you do exclude controls. Okay, last challenge was how far into the supply chain can audits be mandatory? Now this is a tough one. I didn't see actually anywhere prescribed, how far do you go? So do you only, if you are a company and you have a supplier, are you analyzing only this supplier, or are you analyzing also supplier, or you go actually a step further and then analyze the supplier of a supplier of your supplier? It's not prescribed in any of these frameworks that I spoke about today. And to be honest, I'm not sure. I mean, there is no definite methodology or requirement for that part. Usually you focus on your first supplier, but if this supplier heavily depends on, I don't know, another cloud supplier, then you actually can go a step further. But I'm sure that in the next couple of years we will have a much more transparent and relevant methodology for dealing with these kind of audits. Okay, just to make a short conclusion, then we'll go for a Q&A session. So, these kind of toolkits are made really to substantially, I would say, reduce your implementation time and of course, avoid potential problem with the authorities. And as I mentioned, you can sign up for a free demo of these toolkits and see how these documents look like. And you can actually also schedule a call with our toolkit expert, and then he will also show you complete documents if you want to see how these documents look in full. So we'll share also now with this meeting link so that you can schedule this call. Okay, great. Let me now move on to the Q&A session. And just before I answer these questions, just a couple of notes. First of all, you can reach out to me directly and ask any question, and you'll see now my email address on the screen. And you can also follow me on YouTube and LinkedIn. On YouTube, I publish various videos on NIS2, on DORA, on ISO 27001. So if you want to, let's say, learn visually then through videos, then you can see my YouTube profile. On LinkedIn, I publish latest news related to compliance, cybersecurity, governance, these kind of things. So if you want to kind of be in touch and keep with the latest news, then you can follow me on LinkedIn. And you can also see on YouTube my Secure and Simple podcast. And this is podcast that I made specifically for consultants. So if you're a consultant, if you want to learn from other consultants how to become successful, then take a look at this Secure and Simple podcast. Okay, another announcement here. My next webinar will be about ISO 27001 implementation steps. So if you want to learn more, where to start with the implementation and what are the optimal steps in the to actually complete the project, then sign up for my next webinar, and you can actually see in the chat window all the upcoming webinars. Good. Let me now actually answer a couple of questions that came in. Yeah, actually before the webinar, I received a question from Alessio about the relationship between NIS2 and ISO 27001. And there is also an article which I published on Advisera website where I explain this relationship. So I'll ask my colleague to share this link now. And again, I would say that if you implemented 27001, you covered roughly 70% of NIS2 requirements. Again, it depends on really which country are you, but this is roughly the answer there. Okay, Felix was asking, do you have a mapping in Excel file between DORA, NIS2 and ISO 27001? Currently we don't, but I would say this is a very good idea. So we'll probably create this kind of mapping between these three frameworks, and then we'll publish it as a free material on our website. So we'll definitely let you know when this is done. Dieter was asking, what training do I need for NIS2 if I'm ISO 27000 lead implementer certified? Well, there are lead implementer courses for NIS2 from some other providers. Again, Advisera didn't publish any of these NIS2 courses yet because these regulations are still not published by EU countries. And yeah, when we actually publish these we will publish this NIS2 lead implementer course, but also NIS2 foundations course on our website. And then if you already have ISO 27000 lead implementer course, then you will have to go only through this difference, and this will be basically the foundations course for NIS2. And then you will actually go, if you already have the lead implementer and you go for NIS2 foundations, you will get also automatically the NIS2 lead implementer certificate. So depending on what you have, you can actually do this also. You'll be able to do this through Advisera website. Okay, good. Alessio was asking, so the question I didn't answer from Alessio. So do people need to have heavy ICT skills to be auditors under 27001? I don't think that they need to have heavy ICT skills, but they definitely need to have heavy auditing skills and very good knowledge of ISO 27001. So this is something, of course, that you can learn again through various courses, and there is also this lead auditor course for ISO 27001 on Advisera website, and you can take this course if you want to get these competencies. Okay, I think I've covered everything, so let me wrap up the webinar. So, this webinar today was really too short to go into too many details about these frameworks, and you can of course take a look at all the links that we've sent you and take a look at this free demo of these toolkits. And yeah, we'll publish the PDF presentation deck from this webinar today on the same page where you're actually watching the webinar now. So if you join the webinar through LinkedIn or YouTube, simply stay on the same page where you are now, and in about 10 minutes you will see links in the comment section where you will be able to download the presentation deck. If you joined through Zoom, then we will send you a link to download the presentation deck through email. So we'll send you this email in latest by tomorrow morning. And you also notice that we will publish all the links from these webinar that we sent through chat window. You will also see these links together with the download link. And you will also see a link to a short survey. It's very short, only 3 questions. So if you can answer these questions, I will be very grateful, because this will help me improve the webinar. And yeah, this would be all. Thank you very much for your participation, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar. And thank you, and